So my name's DJ, by the way. This is the second time I've hosted Claude Code for the Humanities. Last time went really well. It was a lot of fun, and so I'm excited to be hosting it again. Um, just a little bit of background about me, and then we'll dive into the course here. So I've been a coder for about 30 years now. I would say a professional for about 25 years. Um, I was a music major in college, and didn't really use computers um, until I was out of college, and discovered a few years out that I was pretty good with them, and just infinitely curious about them. And so just over time, I started learning to program. Even started a software company, even though I didn't really do much programming in that company, but uh, with subsequent companies I did. And now I would say that I'm a pretty good programmer. I'm not, with a lot of times in the industry, they talk about the 10x programmers, the people that are just 10 times as good as anyone else. They're 10 times faster. I'm not that. I'm more of pretty good with coding and above average at it, but I'm more of a product guy. I just like to build products, I like to build things, and I've got enough skill that I can do that. And I started using AI for coding about, it's been almost 3 years ago now. So the first sort of major product that people really started talking about was called Cursor. They're still around. At that point, I would use it just to like do little things. So I'd be working on a piece of code. I would select the code and tell it to, fix this array or figure out where the logic is wrong here or whatever. And that was great. And then over time, it just got better and better and better, where I could just start to type what I wanted, and it would do the whole, 50 lines of code just because it inferred from the first few keystrokes what I was trying to do. It was amazing. Um, then last summer, I believe, is when Claude Code came out, and I started using it, and I was shocked at how good it was. I was no longer, my paradigm before had been to have sort of a code editor working in front of me with this little chat companion next to me that would answer questions and fix things for me. Now it gets to where I almost never look at the code. Um, I will have it create an entire application for me, but then I may go in and check some things and, make some changes. But it really is the equivalent of like just like using Chat GPT or Claude to you just chat and things start happening. It really is remarkable. So what I'm going to do is just kind of walk through a few examples here. The origin of this course itself was started with Claude. I started chatting with Claude and said, hey, I think more kind of humanities, right brain type thinkers could probably use Claude because I was seeing some things in the wild. And Claude, of course, said, you're absolutely right. That's what it always does. And so we just started, chatting, sort of thinking through what it would look like. And it came up with a whole curriculum, but I backed off from that and said, you know what? I think we could just narrow this down to a couple hours of demo because I know from my own experience, just watching someone do stuff, you can learn a lot from that. You don't have to have a full-blown course, and a full-blown course is intimidating anyway. And I feel like what I'm going to do is just walk you through what it's like to build an app. We're going to build an app live tonight, and then you'll have questions and some ideas, and we'll iterate on it, and then hopefully you'll go away with some ideas of your own. So this is from a good essay by Jasmine Sun. She writes on Substack. I think she's actually writing for The Atlantic now. But she talked about her first uh, uh, use of Claude. And this is what if nothing else, I want people to take away from this session is to think of code less as like this wonky sort of technical computery thing and think of it more as like a mode of expression. Like what if I could, take this book I'm reading and visualize it in some interesting way, for example? Or what if this spreadsheet I have with all this interesting data, I could just generate all these really cool charts and animations? Think of it that way as a mode of expression. And, she talks about the challenges of what she calls seeing code-shaped problems, right? So I can like look at an app on the phone. I've done enough code where I can almost predict to you exactly what the underlying data model is like. what they're probably using for the design paradigm, all that stuff. But if you're not used to solving those kinds of problems, then you don't see that. It's kind of like what I learned in music. When you're studying music, you learn not just to hear the melody, but also the bass line and the rhythm, and when it goes staccato and when it goes legato. You learn to you sort of hear this stuff that's kind of makes up the pieces of the puzzle. So she talks about it's like cooking with ingredients from someone else's fridge. When you're looking at a blank page, you don't know what to write. You're in a country where you don't know the language. That's what it feels like at first. But if you stick with it, you'll start to get comfortable in your own skin. And Claude, as you'll see, is extremely helpful. It will help you every step of the way. So I want to just show some sort of examples that kind of inspired me along these lines. So this is just a tweet that someone did. What is the largest number explicitly referred to in a Shakespeare play? Kind of one of those weird questions that you might think sometime, I wonder what the largest number is. Well, some guy figured it out. He opened up, he used Codex in this case, but just had it read all of Shakespeare and figure out what the largest number is. And so it's 2 million is the answer. So, that's just kind of an example of sort of a quirky thing you can discover using code. Um, this is a more ambitious project I want to show. So this is from John Gantz. He's a historian. He writes a lot about authoritarian movements from the left and the right, and he has a popular Substack called Unpopular Front. And he's been writing a lot about authoritarian movements, but he was trying to figure out, could there be some way where we could measure it? Is there some way we can tell like how likely a regime is to go authoritarian? So, and he took all these different models, different thinkers over the years of like what defines authoritarianism and how do they measure it? And, so this is sort of the ugly sort of terminal based version of it. But what he turned it into was this dashboard. And what it does is it intakes information from the news, what's happening with the economy and, recent elections and things like that, and then comes up with sort of a scoring, which admittedly is still very subjective, right? It's still him applying this, but it does give you a sense of like something much more than like, what 1,000 words might communicate to you. He's got it all here on one screen. And what's neat about John's case is he wrote about this, he created, he posted it on a Substack, and immediately about 20 people who are coders like me jumped in and said, hey, I want to help. And so now he's got this whole, it's in Discord, he runs this whole, there's a bunch of people trying to make this thing better. So, the right thing out there can light a fire and get other people interested in working with you on it. So this is an example from Jasmine that she did with Claude Code is she just wanted to look at her messages. Apple has iMessage, which is their interface between the phone and the computer. And she just wanted to see like, you've seen Spotify Wrapped and all those things in the year. She just wanted to see like, well, what does my message inbox look like? And so she came up with this neat little visualization that shows how many messages. It's a lot of messages over 9 years, 320, almost 325,000 messages over 9 years. So that's kind of cool. But then she had to do some data analysis on it about the different types of phrases she used in those messages, so you can see each year, like what were the interesting words that were popping up in her messages. So that's kind of fun too. Again, there's no practical reason to do this, that you're not going to go out and start a company to do this for people, but it's just fun. And again, that's what I want to like really get people thinking about is what would be a fun thing for you to discover using Claude Code. This is a very ambitious one. And of course, I'm forgetting his name. I'll make sure to link to it when we send out the video of this. But this is also a historian. He focuses more on kind of ancient and medieval history. And he created, it took him a few months to build this, but he created a simulator where you can drop in at any time in history. And so what you can do is see up here, it says create a world from text, right? And so like what I tested was, I think in this case, I probably typed in, I am a soldier in Alexander the Great's army. And then, I did some spinning and poof, I've got this whole world. It's got a little map. There's me down there in the lower right corner. You can click on things and it'll tell you about them. And he sources all this information from Wikipedia. So he's using just open source sources to to kind of build these worlds. So it's just a very rich experience. And I imagine he's a professor. I imagine he's using it in his classroom. It would be like a really fun way to explore history. Um, Here's something a little crazier. This guy, he created a little robot for his desk called Claude Moki, and it interacts with his computer. He can draw smiley faces on it. It will smile when he's working on certain things. It'll frown when he's working on other things. And I have no idea how to build this, but that I know I could build this with Claude Code because I could tell it, Claude, I want to build something like this. How do you do it? And it would give me all the steps. Um, uh, this is one that I think is very interesting from a sort of a philosophy and ethics um, perspective. So he created Loophole, which is let's create a legal regime based on a certain type of ethical code, and then I'll unleash AI on it to find all the weak spots in it, like all the places where someone can subvert, the will of the law through shenanigans. And so I thought I had a screenshot in here, but I guess I don't. He shows some examples of an ethical, a ethical system based on Aristotelian ethics, and then it shows all the places where a bad actor could exploit, holes in that. So that's a very interesting way to approach philosophical teaching. This one I think is really cool. So what this is, this guy, he got a projector and set it up so that it would project little balls falling on the wall. And then you can put little paper notes, post-it notes on there, and they will bounce off the post-it notes. Again, this is something I couldn't do in a million years, but I took a picture of this and asked Claude, how would I build this? It told me all the equipment I would need, all the different types of, the 3D stuff I would need to do it. So, just really fun. And again, this guy's making the point. Just do fun stuff. Don't feel like you have to build something ambitious. Just scratch that itch. So here's the screenshot of Loophole. I got it out of order, but you can see he's got this place where you set your moral principles, and then it shows loopholes in it. How someone could exploit your ethical system. So just a very interesting way of thinking about this problem. So this one is another one. Unfortunately, I don't have sound for this, but he took a track from a song and asked Claude to build a visualization that follows the bass line to the song and visualizes it. I see a lot of these types of things, like music visualizations people do. Again, I would never have been able to do this myself, but with Claude Code, I could. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. So first of all, to do what I'm showing you tonight, you have to have Claude desktop installed. You can get that. You can just Google Claude desktop and it'll take you right there. You download it. There's one for Mac. There's one for Windows. And then you will have to pay. So for Code, you have to have what's called the Pro plan. It's $20 a month. They have higher plans, max plans. I've never actually needed max. I get fine just with the Pro plan, and I do a fair amount of usage of it. So you can get a lot of mileage out of it, just that $20 a month. So those are the prerequisites to doing what we're talking about today. So what I'm going to do now, let me close the slideshow and shift what I'm sharing here to my desktop. And before I jump into building something, does anyone have any thoughts or ideas, because I didn't come in with anything preconceived that I want to build. What I want is to build something that someone here wants to build, and just want to see, let's open it up. Does anyone have any ideas or questions of something they'd like to build?
Hey DJ, how's it going?
Hi.
Thank you for hosting this. I have one, but it might be a little bit might be big for this. I mean, I don't know if it'll be possible to do here, but one thing I would love to build would be a matching platform for job seekers to put in their seniority, their skills, their experience, companies to come in, put in their job ad, and then it matches the two up and has like a percentage match.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could get pretty far with that. What else? Anyone else got some ideas? Come on. No one wants to build bouncing balls or oh, here's one. Yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, I'm going to do a quick audio check. I've got an air conditioner on. Is that getting filtered out successfully?
Yeah, we're hearing you just fine. You're fine.
Okay, awesome. Something that popped up in real life for me just this past weekend is I was at a board game convention, and they had kind of a relatively unstructured Discord that people were using to match electronically, but people mostly ended up just like holding up balloons in the room. It
Hmm.
would have been nice to have some sort of continuing the theme of matching from what Michelle said, that it would have been really nice to have something that was like a little bit simpler than Discord and maybe a little bit more sophisticated than balloons. Um, Going
So,
from
so let me make
people
sure I understand
scanning
you.
a
So,
QR code or something to like being able to match make on various games with each other.
okay. So let me think about this for a second. So you said it was board games or was it
Yeah.
like video game? Okay, board game matcher. Okay. Um, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Anyone else? Any other ideas? Don't be shy. You can be half baked, half formed. You're not quite sure. You're just exploring a concept and not sure how to um, realize it. Um, oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So I teach a class on Jane Austen, and I'm wondering how to integrate something like this into a class where I want students to be sort of doing interactive work with the text, but also the context, thinking about the historical context, the biography, and details of the text itself. I don't know if anything like that can be built through something like this.
Yeah, I think something can. The trick would be you'd probably have to iterate a few times because what you probably most want is for people to actually read the books, right? And not use this as a way to not read the books. Um, but that said, you could build something that maybe visualizes certain aspects or even a simple quiz, right? That just asks questions. So that would be definitely something that would be ripe for exploration. Any others? Going once,
I think
going twice. Yes.
one that I've wanted to build is I have so many of these different like learning modules. I think people in their 20s on TikTok will call it a personal curriculum, but for me it's more of really just saving all of these different various AI learning workflows. They're not necessarily courses, and so I've been trying to build out something that essentially creates a curriculum like a Khan Academy-esque module myself, but also has like structured learning and quizzes and like you have to like teach it back. And so kind of a combo of like pulling together these different sources and things that I've squirreled away, organizing it
Mm-hmm.
into something that actually has structure, and then matching how I best learn. So not just, generating a simple quiz, but actually like applying the concepts, teaching it back. Like I've been playing with like linking it to my own to like my work Notion and Slack so that I can kind of build it on context that I already know. So building something like that, essentially like a personal curriculum and class almost, is something that I've been trying to figure out how to do.
That's actually something I could use too. Um, I I'll show you. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but it's the same problem and kind of in an earlier stage. So an alternative to Notion is Obsidian. You may have heard of Obsidian. Is let's see here. Let me just go into my to-do here. Index is what I want. So Obsidian is kind of like Notion. It's like a very stripped down version of it. But the key sort of thing that makes Obsidian especially useful with AI is it uses a format called Markdown. So you don't have proprietary, doc files or Google Sheets or anything like that. It's all just Markdown. Markdown was created about 25 years ago. It's a variation on markup for HTML. It's just a very simple way of formatting. You can do it just in a plain text editor. And what I've done is, let's see, So over on the right, I've got this plugin for Markdown. So on the right side of my screen, you'll see, I'm in the wrong place, a little terminal. I'm typing right now. Let me try this. Yeah. And let's switch into this. And what I can do is run Claude from within here. And so this has access to all of everything I've got in Markdown. And so I've got a bunch of different things I've collected, sort of like you're probably talking about, just different types of documents. And then I built this, well, I copied this from someone else. It generates a wiki. It'll go through all of my documents and sort of figure out organizationally what are the different themes and how do they go together, and and organize them. And then from here, what I would do if I were thinking the way you are, I would start saying, okay, how do I turn everything in my AI coding folder into a course, right? And we could make it like a lot of the stuff I do is just within the terminal itself, because I'm comfortable with the terminal, but you could definitely build a web app that does the same thing. So that might be a good place to start as well, is with something like that.
Yeah, this also just gave me a lot of Obsidian inspiration, which I have started and quit so many times. So
Me
this is
too. Me
helpful.
too. I didn't start using it seriously until I could use Claude in it, because most of my interaction with Obsidian is actually through Claude. I'll tell it, go organize these documents, add a document called X, and fetch the web and search for it and find it and download it, things like that. So you can do a lot of neat things like that. So why don't we just pick one? So we have, let's see, a job matching service, a board game matching service, a Jane Austen text and context teaching tool, and a learning AI course. Does anyone have any preferences over one or the other? Maybe what I should do is let people vote in the chat. I'm not sure how to do that. Isn't there a way to do a poll? Maybe not. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to type them in chat, and then underneath them, you can heart it if you like it. And if you don't like it, just go on to the next one. So let's put job matcher. So that's one. The next was board game. Matcher. Jane Austen teaching tool. And then the last one was, online custom learning system for AI. All right. So I'll give everyone a second to vote. We got 2 for Jane Austen. Ooh, custom learning is coming up with a bullet. Job Matcher's got 1. Everyone please vote. In the meantime, I will start getting Claude warmed up here. I'm going to close this. And I will leave this open. So the first question is, can people see this? Because I know sometimes, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. That might be a little too big. If you're having trouble seeing the screen, let's speak up, but this is what we'll do. So let me just check the votes we have. Let's see. So we've got 4 for the custom learning system. Wow. 2 for job matcher. No one's into the board game. I wanted to do the board game one. Oh, well, I'm overruled. So let's see if we got any more votes. All right, well, let's do the custom learning system. Good, I'll be able to use this myself. So first thing you need to know, so this is a Claude Desktop, and the default interface for Claude Desktop is chat. You see this highlighted up here. They used to have tabs across the top, but I was frantically trying to find the tab earlier before we started. But it turns out they've moved it. So now over here they have CoWork. If you've ever seen CoWork, it's pretty neat for like just doing some, I've had it take things like a bunch of spreadsheets and reorganize them for me and stuff like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the code the code version. And
Hey, DJ.
mhm.
Sorry to be that person, but the job matcher actually got 9 because people voted with the plus as well as the heart.
Okay.
I accidentally voted with the plus because I was trying to figure things out, but I actually meant to vote for the.
Okay, fine. We'll
No, no,
start with
no. I
that.
didn't mean to vote for the job matcher. I meant to vote for the one that we're actually doing. I just accidentally was trying to figure out, I didn't know what the plus was. So I think that accident.
If you click again, it takes the vote off.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. If you click it again,
okay.
it'll take the vote off. Well, we're still at, even without that, we're at 8. So, all right. The people have spoken or spoken. It might be the AIs in here voting, right? The AI note takers are like, no, I need to learn too. So let's go with that. So, a couple things to get you started. So I'm just going to hide this little sidebar here because it's annoying. And here we are. This is the blank page that you look at. And 2 things. So down here at the bottom, right above the chat, this is basically asking where does it run? And I'm going to choose local, which means it's going to run on my local computer, but they also have a cloud version. You can run things in the cloud. I wouldn't bother with that for now, just for your first time around, just do it locally. And then when you do choose locally, you have to choose a directory for it to run in. So I already chose one, but just to show you what that looks like, I've got a folder here called InterIntellect, and I'm just going to click open. And what I'm going to be doing, just in case you think I'm being rude, I've got 2 monitors here. I've got the one where I'm talking to you, and I got the one where I'm looking at my computer. So I'll kind of switch back and forth, but I really am looking at something and working on it. So typically what I do is I just tell it, say, hey, I want to build a cool job matcher. And how would you do that? Right. So let's just start with that. Tell me a little bit more about it. So a job matcher that does what?
So for now, just a simple, let's say you go in and say, okay, I'm looking for a senior marketing manager role. I have 10 years of experience. I've experience in fintech industry, edtech industry, and I'm based in the US looking for a remote first role. And the company says, I need a senior marketing manager. I need someone with at least 10 years of experience based in the US with fintech experience. And it's a 90% match.
Okay. So job seekers will register. Well, yeah, we'll register, put up a profile of their skills and what kind of role. And then companies will put in their requirements, and the marketplace will, let me put it this way, companies will post a job notice, list key skills and experience, and then the matcher will make suggestions to each cohort. So that's how we're going to start. And this is how most of my projects start. I don't have sometimes I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like, but oftentimes I really don't. I just kind of think, hey, this would be neat, this kind of function. I'd like to be able to offer this function. So I just entered that. See, it tells me that's a great project idea. Good. Claude is excessively sycophantic when you work with it. So just be aware, it's going to tell you everything you say is brilliant. And not everything you say will be brilliant. Just have a little humility. Okay, so it's clarifying. It's here's the job seekers profile with their skills, what kind of job, companies, post job listings. Matcher automatically suggests good matches. Few questions. So who are you building this for? Just yourself to learn, or do you actually want to launch it? I think we probably want to actually build this to launch, right? this is one of the challenge with this kind of product, just in general, is it's a two-sided marketplace. You know, if there's lots of buyers but no sellers, then they lose interest. If there's lots of sellers and no buyers, then they lose interest. So if it's just for me, it's not going to be very useful. So so I'm going to answer number one here. I want to launch it. Two, any preference on technology? No, I'm just going to let it suggest what technology. Normally, I would say, oh, I'd like it to be Node with TypeScript and Tailwind, and yeah, I have a bunch of sort of buzzwords in my head I would use. But if you're brand new, don't just let it suggest things to you. How smart should it be? I think we want the smart version, the AI powered one, right? AI powered, and then 4, does it need user accounts? So yes, but this is a demo for now. So make it really just really simple. Let's just say that. Great. So it's thinking, and it's going to lay out what to build. So what it's doing now, it's in planning mode, which means it's iterating and sort of thinking through what you do. What's fascinating, you'll see it more as we get going. But if you click on that down arrow, it'll show the different types of thinking it's doing, you know? So here's the stuff that I suggested, right? And then it's doing tech stack. Now it knows about me that I prefer TypeScript, so that's why it did this. But for you, it wouldn't know that. So this, and now it's going to produce basically a planning document that we'll use. And as we get going, like when I'm telling it, you know, add this feature or no, move this button over here, you can see it thinking, and it really does think like a programmer thinks. You know, you'll see it saying, well, for this problem, I need to consider these constraints, and yeah, or no, sometimes it'll make mistakes. It'll start doing something and then it'll go, no, wait, that's wrong. I need to fix that, which is pretty much how I work too. You know, I'm constantly second guessing. Yes, someone has a question. You're muted. Yeah.
Hi. Hi, DJ.
Yes.
Um, so I have a question on why you recommend using the Claude app instead of the browser version, because you can build apps on the browser version too.
It's mainly just preference. I actually what I use every day is the terminal, but that's really intimidating for a lot of people. So I don't know about the reason I use the app, because I'm pretty sure with the web it can't do this because it's going to build all this on my local computer. I'm pretty sure when you use the web, and instead creates a cloud account for you and puts it all there, which is fine. That's great to use. But I'm personally the kind of person who likes it stuff on my computer so that it's easy for me to go inspect, edit, see how much file space is taking up, things like that. So that's the main reason I choose that.
Okay,
Got it. Looks like we have another question. Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering like how often it can like or like, to what extent can it detect sort of like conflicts in requirements? Because I feel like, launchable and then like this is just a demo are kind of
Right.
like
Yeah.
conflicting things. So like is it going to like understand that and like pick one and explain
Yes,
it
it
to you
will.
or like okay.
It will. That kind of gets to its ambition, right? Because many apps are built as what's called a MVP, minimum viable
Mm.
product. And so that sort of language is all over the web and it's all over GitHub, which is its training data. So it will know, okay, yeah, he wants to build this as a launchable product, but let's do it piece by piece. Let's don't try to boil the whole ocean here tonight. But it'll ask, I mean, this was a pretty straightforward thing, but it'll ask a lot of questions, depending on what your ambition is. Looks like I have another question from Michelle.
I wonder if it'd be possible to go back a step, and whether, because what I'd like to do is actually just to do it with you as well. Like I learn by doing, it'd be really helpful if you just go back a step before you actually put in the prompt here of where in Claude Code you put it and the folder again. So sorry if I missed it. I obviously got distracted.
So let's see, where can I do this? I think I probably have to do the sidebar.
So I'm in Claude Code.
Yeah, so it's usually down at the bottom here. I think because I've started the project, it's not. Oh yeah, so you can choose a folder for it to build in.
Okay.
So I already chose one, but if I wanted to, I could change it and choose a different folder. But
And you're better off to do on your local computer,
I
right?
like
And
to
actually
do it. I mean, but you could do it in the
Okay.
cloud. There's no problem with doing it in the cloud. But it's just my habit. It's my habit. I would imagine the cloud system is quite good. I mean, that's what they do. They build cloud stuff all day, so I wouldn't hesitate to try that instead.
Awesome.
Okay, so here's it's walking us through. So this is telling us the tech stack. You know, these are the different technologies it'll use. You know, typically just accept the defaults, unless you have a very specific reason for using a technology. Because again, this is based on millions of projects. These are the most common things, and typically when you're building something, you want it to be common. You want it to use technology that anyone who's skilled with that technology can use. And so now it's telling us the order. So the build order, 10 steps. It's going to create this skeleton, database, login, profile. Now it has a couple questions here. Skills input. So should people pick from a list or type anything they want? Free typing is easier to build. A fixed list gives better matches. So my instinct on that, having done a lot of these, is sort of both. So you type in, you start typing and it auto completes from a list of skills in the database. And then if you hit enter, it selects that skill. If it's a brand new skill it's never seen before, then it'll just add that to the database. Match refresh. So when a new job is posted, should matches update automatically or once someone clicks find matches? And it's suggesting on demand is simpler. So let's go and do that. Resume, copy paste text box or upload a PDF file. Let's, all right. So one, free typing with autocomplete. And the little X that allows you to delete a skill. So this on demand, it says it's simpler for now. So let's just do that. On demand. And then resume, copy paste text box. Now let's go ahead and do the full upload PDF. Great. So it's asking me, you know, this is what I'm going to build. Ready to proceed? Yes, proceed. So it's going to start churning here. And a lot of this is so one of the biggest challenges as a programmer who uses AI a lot now is distractions. In the sense that I will just have it start working on something, and if it takes more than 3 seconds, I immediately get distracted by something else. So I have to keep coming back and say, oh, what's it doing now? So that's one of the biggest challenges with this. So now what it's asking me to run commands. This is an important thing with Claude Code. It's working on my local computer, right? And so a rogue AI could go nuts and delete all my files or install a virus or things like that. So for any command that alters my local state, it will ask me, you know, can I do this? I could just allow it to happen one time. I could say, I'm going to say always allow. This is the kind of thing that probably looks like utter gobbledygook to you. The truth is it often looks like it to me too. These are just sort of obscure commands, and I usually just say always allow and just let it have at it. So what it's doing now is it's creating a basic folder structure. It's downloading all these different technologies from the internet and installing them. So let me do this. And let me close this out so there's less distraction. So while it's churning, does anyone have any questions or suggestions or just thoughts on what you've seen so far? Does this feel like something you could jump in and try, or is it a little overwhelming? Tough crowd.
I'm
Yes, go ahead.
curious to see like what where it's gonna take the taxonomy from for like the skills. Like or
Yeah,
if
that's
it's
a good
gonna
question.
come,
It'll
yeah.
probably, if it's like other projects I've done, what it's going to do is pretty soon it will offer to create a um, a seed database that has some information already in it. Oh, it looks like someone's joining. Let me let them in. And so it'll probably, there's no shortage of text files out there that have like the most common skills. So it'll probably pull that. Let's see where we are. Yes, question.
I just wanted to say thank you more than anything because I haven't touched the code side of Claude because I just assumed you had to know code to do it. And seeing that you prompting it with just normal words, like you've already taken like the anxiety side out of it. So I just want to say thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's the biggest unlock for a lot of people is realizing, oh wait, I can just chat with it. And it does, the way I got started as a programmer is I worked actually as a temp at one of the big accounting firms, and basically they had this gigantic spreadsheet that they wanted me to help them wrangle, and it was in the HR department. They had this incredibly lengthy and complex set of spreadsheets that had to do with like your pay level and your pay grade, and some consultant had some system for scoring different people, and it was a mess. It was a nightmare to maintain. And I knew just enough about databases to suggest, you know what, this is not a spreadsheet problem. This is a database problem. We should build this as a database. And they said, okay. And at that time, this is back in the 90s, I went and got a book. There was a popular database platform called FoxPro. Um, I went and bought a book on FoxPro, installed FoxPro, and just started teaching myself how to program in FoxPro. And the reason I tell that story is because there are millions of those kinds of applications in offices everywhere. It's not worth building a whole platform. It's not worth spending $500 a month for an upgrade to Salesforce. You just need to do this one little thing. And so the person in the office who takes the initiative and understands that, oh, I find myself repeating this process over and over. It's the same spreadsheet, or it's the same download, or it's the same, copy and paste. They can write a program that will do that for them. And so that's where the biggest impact, I think, for this stuff is. It's not going to be the huge giant platforms. It's going to be just millions of little personal apps people have built. Okay, so it's thinking right here, and you can see sometimes something will show up in red. That means it tried to do something that didn't work, which is fine. This is what I mean by thinking. Like, this is the exact thing I would have done. I would have said, yeah, let me move the cache. Oh, wait, I can't do that. What do I do instead? And so it's saying, let me move it completely outside, And so this is just gives you a sort of an insight into what a programmer is thinking. Yes, Stephanie.
Yeah, so by default, when you ask Claude to build an app for you, does it build it as a desktop app?
It
And
builds it as a web app,
web app. Okay, because I
Yeah,
was
but
just wondering if I wanted to build a mobile version of the app, would I have to tell it like different commands, or what do I do?
just tell it either I want to build a mobile version now, or this app will also need to work on mobile. Or even I have a specific iPhone I want to build it for. I've got an old iPhone. It needs to work on that iPhone, things like that. Yes, go ahead, Linka.
Hi there. So sorry, I just joined because basically last 40 minutes I didn't receive the invite and I was last 40 minutes trying to get in and speaking to the support team to get me on. And I think even that I just came in the middle, I just think that I don't know how much can I actually learn. Is this actually going to be recorded? Is there a way that I can have a look at this afterwards? Because I don't
Yes.
have any programming background, and I just like at this point in time coming in the middle, it's like when you have explained so much, it's just I just don't know how much am I going to learn.
That's fine. Yes, it's being recorded. It'll be posted to YouTube, and we'll make sure to share it with everyone who's here.
Okay. Amazing,
That'll
amazing.
work.
Well, thank you.
But the TLDR version is you just talk, you just chat. You're not building, you're letting it build, you're just telling it what you want. So it's like, this is interesting. It said ShadCN, this is one of the libraries we're using. It's asking an interactive question, which means what happens is it typed in a command and the command came back with like yes or no, or choose one of these three options. And so it had to rerun it in a way that doesn't do that. So these are just the kind of the simple things that it's doing. This is the actual, like if you were typing this at a command line, this is what would be coming up on screen. But we don't want to do that. We don't have to see that. So it's got the it's got the web framework set up. It's got the styling set up, and now it's creating the database. I got to make sure I have a database running locally. Let me see. Orb stack. This is what's called a Docker, which allows you to like install virtual machines inside your computer to run different services. And most of the time you wouldn't need to think about this, but because what it would normally do is it would download PostgreSQL and install it locally, but I already have PostgreSQL on my computer, so it will use one of those instead. I hope it should. Yes, go ahead, Mitch.
Sorry, my mute was stuck. At our office, I was told that the way they use Claude, they have to do like a markdown file, and then they like put the series of prompts and commands in the markdown file, and then they can get it to do it. Does that mean we're using a different tool than the one you're using here, where it
No.
looks like you're just chatting?
No. What they probably are doing, they probably have a structured approach to it. Because what you can do is I mean it's funny, kind of old is new again. In the old days, before you probably may have heard of Agile or Scrum methodology for software development. In the old days before that, you would write this very long requirements document that would cover every potential use case, and it would be hundreds of pages, and that would be the spec. And then you hand that to the programmers and they build to the spec. But then with Agile, when Agile came along, it was more about, let's not try to get the whole thing out at once. Let's just do chunks of it. Let's sort of have some basic assumptions built in, and then we'll just build it piece by piece, in what are called sprints, usually 2-week long sprints. And that's been the dominant paradigm for the past 25 years. But what your office mates are probably doing is they're creating a spec in Markdown that's similar to what I taught. It's probably not hundreds of pages, but it's much more detailed. And then they're telling Claude, go read this spec and start implementing it. So that's one way to do it. I do that sometimes. Or actually more often what I'll do is I'll chat with Claude and have it plan out like, we'll go for a while till I have all of the sort of the major architecture issues, use cases well defined, and then I'll have it save that to a markdown file. And then Claude, and actually all of these GPTs, what's important is context. Like the more it has to remember, the more likely it will get lost and confused. And so periodically I will like work with it, come up with a whole plan, then I'll save it, and then I'll clear memory, and it's like Claude is brand new again, and I'll just say, Claude, go read this spec and implement what's in that spec. So that's probably what they're doing. Quinn, you have a question? Oh, go ahead. Did you have a question? Go. Do you have a
Sorry, a
follow-on?
follow-up on that, which is does having the spec markdown or otherwise, um, does that give you a better chance of success if you have a complicated thing you're trying to ask it to build?
Yes. The short answer is yes. Because especially if you do that with Claude, because it can help you identify edge cases. Some, because as you're writing the spec, sometimes you'll forget there's something up here that conflicts with something down here, like earlier when we had the kind of the MVP versus launch. So it'll help you resolve those kinds of things. So it's going to want me to go to Supabase. All right, so this is a very common thing. It wants me to go create a free account in Supabase, which is a hosted database service. So let me do that. I think I should already have an account. Let me go to my dashboard. Yes, so let's see what happens here. Intellect. So I'm creating the free one. So this is another thing about, oh, I got to do a password. Okay, let's just use intellect. Let me copy that. Great. So it's going to create the project. In the meantime, let me go back to here. It's giving me some instructions here. So tell me to create it and then go to settings, database connection string, and copy the URI, paste it into your .env file. So I'll show you what exactly that means. So the strangest things it has here are these two things. So this .env file, that's the kind of thing that can be confusing to people who don't know what that is. And then this part about run this command. So I'm going to say, instead of a .env file, can I just tell you the info and you create it? Let's see what happens. Okay. So, so it wants my Supabase database and my Anthropic API key. So let's get those. All right. So this is the I believe what we want. Let me double check this. Yeah, this is what we want. All right. So we're gonna paste this in here. My password, which I copied earlier, is this. And then, okay, now since we're going to be using AI to actually do the matching, I need to give my Anthropic API key. So Anthropic is the creator of Claude. And what I need to do then is to go into Claude. Actually, I might be able to do it from here. Let's see. This is something I always forget how to do. Settings. No, I don't want to use this. So I always have to do this. So what I'll do is I'll Google Claude API key setup. Let's see. So I need to go to the console account here. It's going to make me log in.
When you can, you've also got a few hands up, I think.
Yep. Let me just get through this API key thing and then we can get to it. So I'm going to create a key. I'm going to call it, let's call it what we're calling it, a job matcher. Add it, and it'll ask me to copy it. And then I'll go back to here. And actually, it asked me a question. Shall I go and run the database migration? I'm going to say yes. Okay, now, Michelle, we have 2 questions. So, Michelle, you're up first.
Hi, I did put something in the chat that it was asking me to run, I had to install Node.js first. And then when I saw yours come up and talk about Supabase, I said, can you not just do it with Supabase? And it's like, sure. And then I need to set up an account. So if you hadn't have had your screen on here, I would have been like, Node.js, I need that. Like, would I have needed that?
Probably, yes. Usually when it asks you to install something, you can just say yes as a general rule, because Supabase is not the same as Node.
No,
But it'll
sorry,
figure that out in a bit, and it'll tell you. So it'll
Okay.
circle back to it. So okay, great. So we've set up these secrets. So these are basically secret things that are used to connect to different services, and it's telling me they're all ready. It's run the migration, so all tables are created. So ready to build the login and registration page. Next, shall I proceed? I will say yes. So the hardest part we've done so far is probably that Supabase thing and this Anthropic API key stuff. I knew the answers to these questions, so I did it. But you can always just say, I don't know how to do that. Tell me how to do that. And it will tell you how to do that. So whenever you're stuck, don't feel like you have to solve it. You can just keep pushing back. It's extremely useful in that case. Looks like we have another question.
Oh, yeah, I had a question about like token usage. Like, can you get it to like estimate the number of tokens that it thinks it'll take to do the project, or like if can you like set a limit so that it won't go beyond that? I know that like at the company that I work for, they had like what seemed like a ridiculously large number of tokens and then blew through them all like, way faster than they thought they would. So
Yeah, I don't know. Like I can show you that in my terminal, I have a, a little status bar that shows me my usage limits at the bottom. But I doubt it. So one of the challenges that Anthropic is dealing with is it's very hard to estimate how many tokens you'll use, right? And so
Mhm.
you could try asking it. Let me just see what happens.
Is that just using up even more tokens for something that it's gonna
Yeah.
not give you a good answer for?
Yeah, that's always the risk, right? I mean, I do think that's going to become a real, I mean, there's already for companies that are doing this stuff at scale, that's like a big part of their thinking is like, how do you
Yeah.
budget for tokens and stuff? But we're still at the stage where all of it's kind of like where Uber was 10 years ago. They're subsidizing our usage, right? And so it seems really cheap and easy, right? At some point, they're going to start charging us what this really costs, you know? And, it wouldn't shock me if, the level I do it at runs 500 to $1,000 a month. So when you're talking about money like that, and your organization has 100 developers all using Claude, there's going to be someone whose job it is just to sort of optimize token usage across. So, okay. It gave me an estimate here. Oh, this is for the matching part. So it's telling me that per match, it's going to take about 0.7 of a cent per match. So that's good. But I meant for building the project itself. So it's going to check how much token usage I've already used. So it's telling me the auth pages are done. That's the login user account stuff. And it's asking me if I want to build the secret profile page next. I will say yes to that in just a minute. I'll say proceed with seeker profile. So it's used 80,000 tokens so far. A full project typically takes 150 to 300,000. Astonishing pricing, that's roughly 50 cents to $1.50 for the whole build. So it gave me an estimate at least. For some reason, I'm not seeing video. Something happened with, oh, there you are. It wasn't on top. There we go. Okay. Okay, so it's building the secret profile page. It installed the PDF library. I do think that the future, as someone who's looking for a job myself right now, the current process just does not work, right? They put up a form, you upload files. It's just a night. No one likes it on either the job seeker or the company side. And Tyler Cowen, who writes the popular Marginal Revolution blog, he speculates, and I agree that, with enough, I mean, Claude knows a lot about me because I use it so much. It knows what my skills are, what my interests are, what I'm good at, what I'm not so good at. There's no reason that it couldn't just proactively go find jobs for me, right? And actually, I do use it for stuff like that. I'll have it search and like I'll download a white paper. Like just today, I found this report from a government agency, and I said, just go through this and look at all the companies mentioned here and look and see if any of them are hiring. And it diligently went through and found them, and it made recommendations like these people aren't hiring. Plus, it's not really in your focus area. This one, though, this one's a good match. You should apply for this. But that's still me telling it what to do, right? At some point, it's just going to proactively do that. And the flip side will be companies. Yes, they'll still have job descriptions, but it'll be their AI talking to my AI, and they'll kind of negotiate and have like a mini interview. Instead of what they're doing right now, which is just kind of scanning resumes and cover letters and just trying to do a best match kind of thing. Because a resume is a really one-dimensional view of someone's skills and experience, and it's a very flattening artifact, and so there's no reason it can't be much richer in terms of the things that it can communicate to the employer. So it's building away. And you'll see it's saying all these things. You may think, oh my God, I don't understand what that means. The form event warning is a false positive. Don't worry, just ignore it. It's thinking out loud. Just let it go, let it cook. Because I see this stuff all the time, and to me, it's like that screen in the Matrix, that shows all the things. It just kind of rolls by. And then eventually, maybe once it stops, I'll ask it some questions about what it just built, and did you remember to do X? And have you thought about you can always iterate with what you have. So now it's running the build. It defaults to Next.js for a lot of stuff, which honestly is not my favorite platform, but it's really dominant. It's really popular out there. So you're safe going with it. I just personally don't happen to love it. I think it's kind of overkill for a lot of what it does. But as a programmer, what's also interesting too is I can use this to explore programming concepts that I wish I knew more about. I can say, tell me more about the programming language OCaml, or why didn't Smalltalk become more popular? That was one of the first object-oriented programming languages. So it's really useful for just exploring stuff that maybe in the past I might have thought, yeah, I should get a book and read about that, but I would never do it. But with here, I can pick up a lot of stuff along the way. So it's still building it. But this is exactly, as I said, this is how I would be thinking. Oh, wait, the path isn't wrong and the file name is wrong. Let me check the actual stuff. This is pretty much what it's like when I'm working on my own, Doesn't do what I think. I have to go look and see, but it does it all in seconds instead of, 5 minutes or whatever it takes me. So you can see why the biggest challenge is not getting distracted, right? Because I'll have typically a couple terminals going. I'm working on a few different projects at once. I did fix it so that it does a little ding on my computer whenever it's waiting for something. So at least I get a notification. Um, and that's the kind of stuff. It's not because I'm some expert on setting up my computer to go ding. I just asked it, hey, I get distracted a lot. Can you make it so it goes ding when you stop? And it walked me through it and set it up for me. So really anything you can imagine, it can do for you. So let's see what happened. So this is an example of where it shows a library that is actually not compatible. So it has to go out and find the one that is compatible. So again, this is sort of like how it would be for me. I would be, well, this looks like a good library. Let me try that. And I would install it, wrangle with it for a while and say, oh, this thing doesn't work. Let me try another one. You know, that's a very common thing that programmers do, is just wrestling with version mismatches. There's a new version available. It doesn't work with like the old version. It's very common. Let's see what it's doing.
DJ, I have a question about prompting.
Mhm.
So when we're telling Claude in the beginning what kind of app we want to create, is it better to be a bit more, I don't know if vague is the right word, but is it better to be a bit more general or super specific?
I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. I mean, I tend to start very general because I think of it as a thinking partner. I'll say, look, I've got this vague idea of something I want to do, but I'm not sure how to do it. Help me think of ways to do this, right? And it'll come back with, you can tell it, I kind of like the way this website does it, but I want to make it a little different and give it a link and it'll go look at that website and tell you. How to do it.
Okay,
So,
I see.
but yeah, before I build anything, I usually spend quite a bit of time just sort of asking questions and refining it. And then, as I said earlier, I'll tell it to save this as a file called plan, and it'll write it all out. That way, if I have to leave or something happens, I've at least got it written down somewhere. And then I can either start, okay, now read the plan and go, or sometimes I'll just clear the memory so that it has more space.
I see. Okay, so you use it as a thinking partner for helping you brainstorm. Because sometimes when I've tried making apps on Claude, I just tell it everything and I get very specific with it. But I'm not sure if that's best practice.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about earlier about having a long spec. I mean, that's certainly something you can do, but and I do that, but I have Claude build the spec with me. I'll just start thinking and talking and then clarifying, narrowing it down, and then I'll say, now turn this into a spec or a plan. So, Mitch, you have a question?
Yeah, hopefully a quick one. So there's Claude Code and there's Claude Cowork and there's, I think, a couple other Claude things. Do you have to pay for individual subscriptions to all these different things?
No, Claude Pro gets you all of that.
Gotcha.
And I do like I use Cowork a decent amount. Like, for example, I have to do I'm part owner of an apartment complex, and it's my job to make sure taxes get filed and all the investors get their tax documents. And the accountant sends me this giant file that's both the tax return and everyone's K1. And I can't just send that to everyone because I'm disclosing all their private data if I do that. So I used Claude Cowork. I said, look at all of these K1s, break them up into separate files, use the name of the person, put like K1 DJ Scruggs as the name of the files. And, here's a folder, have at it. And, 10 minutes later, it's all done for me. I used to do that manually. I think even last year I had to do it manually. Yeah, I did. And so that just is a massive time saving, massive time saving.
Thanks.
So now it's going to downgrade. So here what happened is it's trying to get something to work. It's using Prisma 7, and it looked it up and it said it doesn't work. That's a major breaking change. Simplest fix is to downgrade. So this might be the kind of thing that, because I know a lot of these technologies, I can tell it which version to use, which ones to stay away from because I happen to know that they're buggy or they have certain expectations. Like this one, they were expecting this version of Next to also work with this version of Prisma, and apparently they don't. So those are the kind of things I would also put in a spec, because what's happening is it's trying something, it doesn't work, then it goes and does a search, finds out that it doesn't work, so it wasted a lot of tokens in that process. So again, that's the kind of thing that token optimizers are going to work on. Now, one way you can also run Claude is with what's called dangerously skipped permissions. It's a command line argument you pass through. I do not recommend this, but some people do it. And which is basically, you just say, you know what, stop asking me questions, just do everything you want to do on my computer. And so if you do run it that way, I could have just left and said, implement all of this, don't ask me any questions, I'll come back later. And I would come back and it would spin for a few hours and I could come back and check it. But that's definitely it's kind of a YOLO option. And for what I'm doing, I don't need that. Yes, Michelle, you have a question.
I feel like I wonder what the difference is, because when it pops up and says, would you like to do blah, 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 I don't really know what I'm saying yes to anyway. So what difference would it make for me to just get on and do with it when I'm clicking yes manually?
Yes. You're right. And that's mostly how I behave too. When you're using the terminal, it'll give you additional options like always yes to this question, or ask every time. It'll give you more options. When you're using this interface, it always just asks you. But yeah, it's true. I mean, it's like a joke on Twitter. Someone will post a screenshot of, it asked me if I want to do this, and it's like a 150 character command, that it would take me an hour to understand what it's doing. And it's just like, yeah, go ahead and do it, All right, so how the skill input works. Ready to build company profile? Yes, let's go ahead. So hopefully this will go faster because it was having so many problems with the database connection. Now that that's resolved, it should go faster on these. Always allow. Yes, it did that a lot faster. So has anyone had any sort of insights or aha moments, or I'm still kind of confused, or I'm scared of this? Anyone want to jump in with any thoughts on what you've seen so far?
I can jump in. I've been following along. I've kind of went a slightly different route rather than building. I went down a clickable prototype that was an MVP, and it produced that extremely quickly. I was curious about something because there was an item on memory that wasn't selected. And so then when I went back into projects, I can still see the HTML, for example, in my local folder that it was stored in, but I don't see like the project conversation that was happening. Is that normal? Like if you close out, or should it have remained?
No, it'll lose. Now there is a way, I've never actually used it, but there is a way to find chat history It kind of depends though, because I've sometimes I've sort of had it lose context, and I'll be like, "What are you talking about? I don't remember that at all." So
But I
I
could
may
just
have.
reference like the HTML file if I wanted to refine
Oh
it, for
yes,
example. Okay.
yeah, and you can do that. Actually, something I haven't shown. Uh, hmm, open the file at. So if you type it at sign, it pops up the different files it's created.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell it like this file is messed up. Go fix this specific file to do that. So that actually is a lot of what I'll do. Like I'll find an anomaly in one file, and I'll because if I just tell it go fix it, then it has to search the entire code base. But if I tell it it's this one file, go fix that file, it'll be faster and more token efficient.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. Flow from companies. So yes, let's do this. We're on the, so it's got companies, it's got profiles, and it's looks like you can create a form, and then that was an example. That was a really long command that I didn't even look at, just yeah, go ahead, do it. I mean, one thing I said dangerously skip permissions. For the most part, it's going to stay just in this folder. Well, it is. It's going to stay in this folder I designated. It's not going to go outside the file system. Where you may have heard of OpenClaw. That's one where you just give it complete access to your entire computer. And I've never done that. I don't really need that, but some people seem to think that they can have this super agent that just reads all their email and makes all their appointments and stuff like that. But in order to do that, you have to give it complete access to everything in your computer. And so typically what they do is they buy a Mac Mini and just have a separate computer that just does that. But that's one of those things that seems like mostly hype. There's influencers who make money by getting you impressed with how they run their entire life on Claude. I'm not convinced that they're actually doing that. It's once you view a few of these on Twitter, if you click through, pretty soon you just get flooded with, look at what I made Claude do. It's amazing. And, download this. It's incredible, and for a while I did do that and realized this is all just garbage. It's all half baked. It's all prototypes. So I'm much more selective about what I'll seriously look at anymore. Sometimes what I will do is like I'll find a project I like a GitHub repo, and I'll copy that link because sometimes it'll just be instructions, and I'll say, go read this project and tell me how I could implement this for my computer. Like that Obsidian thing I showed you earlier, that was built a lot that way. I started with this guy had posted just a really simple example of how he's used it, and so I linked to that and said, I want to do this. How do I do it? And it built that. Then I've iterated quite a bit since then. I've done like 3 or 4 major changes to it over time. So it's building. Hopefully we'll be able to load it up here in a second.
BJ, I'm curious, in the past when you've built apps, were there any limitations you found with Claude?
Not really. I will say when you build a really ambitious app that's got a lot to it, there's some real risks that it will duplicate code. It'll build stuff that it no longer uses, and so it's just kind of sitting there in your code base. It may have some security. It may have some security holes. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was last year. There was this app called T that was for women to be able to gossip on guys.
Oh
It was
yeah,
basically it was basically a don't date him girl kind of thing. And in order to use it, they had to verify you really are a woman, right? And so of course all these women, they uploaded their IDs, and someone hacked it. And and got all of these IDs, right? And I'm positive that's because they vibe coded the app and didn't think about security at all when they were building it. Um, or just so like if I'm doing something for real, I spend a lot of time thinking about security risks. I mean, just on my own, but I'll also ask it. I'll say, look, go through this, look at every file, tell me like where the security risk is in this file, stuff like that. That's probably the biggest thing it's likely to miss. And then the next biggest thing is, like I said, sometimes it'll create files, but then later you do some updates to the app and you're no longer using those files. It'll duplicate files, so you have, bloated code. A friend of mine just ran into this. He had gone YOLO with this and had it build all this stuff for him, and now he's realizing that it had a bunch of garbage in there, and he's like trying to deal with it. I'm pretty good about, saying, wait a second, we made this change. What does that imply for this other part of the app? Is that going to break something there? The other thing to do is to create tests. Um, uh, and again, depending on how ambitious I am with the project, I may have it do a really lengthy test suite. If it's just something I'm doing for myself, I won't do it at all. But that's an important part of building a series production app.
How would you run the tests? Would you just tell Claude run a few tests on the app, or?
Yeah, so there's three types of tests. There's unit tests, functional tests, and integration tests. And those can be run from the command line. It'll just run and you'll get a message, pass, 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 failed, those first two. So the unit and functional, and then integration test, it actually will open up a browser and go click through. I don't actually use that very much, just because I haven't needed to, but that's probably actually where Claude is weakest. It's very slow to load it up and click the button and fill in the thing. I imagine they'll probably coming out. I've heard of some good projects that are much faster, but I just haven't had to use them, so I don't know anything about them yet. But that's actually the slowest part, is like actually seeing what a user sees and clicking what users click and things like that.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's really good insight, especially about the security, because I think when building apps, a lot of people, it's not the first thing on most people's minds, but it's extremely important, because if someone hacks into your app and you have all your user data in it, it's big trouble.
Yes, and having built a lot, that's one of those kind of built-in things I know from years of building apps. Like, and I'm not a security expert, but I know the most common patterns, and I just know intuitively what to add. What about this? What about this? What about this? Things like that. All right, so it's running. Let's see if it's working. Oh, it's not working. So let's see. Oh, yeah. So it's asking me to run the app. So now it's running. Okay, let's try this again. Is it running yet? Let me just go look and see. So I'm just telling it, hey, I'm trying to run the app and it's not loading. Let's see what it says. So it's going to look and see. Let me just go look and see what it's doing here. So it's okay. Oh, there we go. Voila, it's here. So, this is pretty basic. I personally don't like this typography. But it's a credible sort of like first pass at it, right? So let's see what happens when I click get started. So I'm going to say I'm a job seeker. Create an account. Okay, so let's try. I think I've got, maybe I can use Dashlane for this. I won't do that. Go away. Let me just, stupid thing won't go away. Okay. Entrepreneur and coder. What are you looking for? Senior full stack engineer. Years of experience, 25. Remote. I'm going to leave the rest of this empty. So let's just try typing in skills. Let's see what happens when I do this. Oh, good. Yeah, so this is interesting. I know what's happening here, but the React, it should be laying over it, but it's getting cut off. Let me just do another one. JavaScript. Okay, so there's JavaScript, but I'm going to tell it to fix that right now. When typing in skills, the drop down falls behind the element below it, obscuring the results. So it's going to go fix it. And this is especially when you're building complex web UIs, this is a lot of what you do. You spend a lot of time just saying, no, the cursor should be a pointer there, or, you know, it's in the wrong place, or the color is all wrong. So let me just see what happens if I type another skill. Let's type Python. Oh, it's still doing it. Let's see what happens. Nope, still doing it. Okay, let me see. This will happen sometimes too. It won't fix the bug, right? And so I have to tell it, no, it's still broken, fix it. So it's editing. All right, so let's see what happens if I do this now. Yeah, there we go. Python, React. See, I can choose different options here. Let's upload my resume and see what happens. Oh, I need to fill out my name again. Okay, reject a match. So it doesn't have, there aren't any matches. So what we would have to do now is we'd want to sign out and then create a company talent. So I'm going to use a different email address. It's company. There we go. Okay, so let's call it Acme Corp. We make widgets. Let's save and go to jobs. So post our first job. I'm looking for a senior software engineer. He writes, gendered, she or he writes really good code. And I'm going to put in some of the skills I mentioned. React, experience level, lead principal, remote, salary. Post job. Now let's see what happens here. So I'm going to click find candidates and see what happens. Oh, it didn't find me. Okay, so that's probably a bug in the matching algorithm. So I could say I created a user with the Python skill, posted a job that requires Python, a company with a job that requires Python, but it didn't find any matches. Let's see what it says here. Okay, so it's iterating on the bug it found. Matching is actually a pretty hard problem in code, so it's not surprising that it didn't quite get it the first go round. Especially when I mean, I'm just doing a very basic matching here, just based on two skills, but when you get into more in-depth skills, it's much more complicated. But let's see if it gets it this time around. So what it did here is it created an interface that communicates with the Anthropic API, and it's probably sending it like, here is a job, here are the skills, here are some people and here are their skills, and then it's telling Claude to match up based on that, and then returning the results. Ooh, in dark mode. Can people read this okay? We went to dark mode. All right, let's see what happened. Okay, now try clicking find matches again. So let's do this. Find candidates now. It's scanning. Voila. 72% match. And I can say, why this candidate? 20 years experience. He lists React Native, then React, which is a partial but not a full skill set. Okay. So we've got the basics of the bones working here. I'll put this up on Vercel so that we can, let's see, put this on Vercel. So Vercel is a hosting platform, very common for these kind of apps. It actually asked that up at the top. It suggested that. So let's let it do it. And I can share the link so anyone else can try it too. But, I knew to use Vercel, but I think in the last session I asked it. I said, I want to put this on the web. How do I do it? And it came back with 5 different options, the pros and cons, the pricing. So again, when you're not sure, you can just ask. You can always ask. Just remember, you can ask. You don't have to figure it out yourself. So we're past time now, so I don't want to keep everyone here all night. But this does give you a sense of like getting started and building something that you can at least start to reason with and think about. Michelle, do you think this is useful? Like what you've seen so far?
Yeah, definitely. If it can come up with like a percent, like a really simple percentage matcher, even that would be enough. So it's crazy how much you've been able to do in just 90 minutes. So thank you.
Yeah. And it's addictive, right? So once you get something up on the screen, it's a lot easier to kind of edit than create from scratch, right? So you can start asking it, I don't like this interface, and you could say, I really like the way, I don't know, Ashby does it. Go look at the way Ashby does it. Can we work that in here? And it'll come back with options. You can say, I don't like the colors, I don't like the type. I wish it looked more like maybe you want it to be the most bare bones like Google interface. You just type in, I want to work as a software engineer, and it spins off and does a bunch of stuff behind you. There's a lot of interesting ways you can approach this problem. So it's deploying it right now. Let's see if it's probably not working yet. Let's see what comes up. Okay, so it put it in my. So this is GitHub. This isn't the actual. Oh, it made it public. Okay. So this is if you want to actually go look at the code, I'll put it in the chat. That's just on my GitHub profile. And let's get back to Claude and see what it's deploying. And actually, if I go to Vercel, this is the hosting environment that we're using. Oh, need to sign in. So looks like it's not showing up in my project. So let's see, it may have put it in a different. Yeah, that's from yesterday. So let's see. Looks like it may not have deployed yet. So let's give it a little bit longer and then we'll see how it goes. Another thing you can also do is, when you're iterating on this and you feel like you've got something pretty good, that you might want to show to a business partner or whatever, you could start saying things like, okay, I just built this thing, but I know there's probably a lot of holes in it. Walk me through what needs to happen in order for this to be a truly production app, right? And it'll think through with you. Again, you can write it out as a plan and start becoming more kind of industrial in your approach. So, but that's always a good step. I mean, I do that a lot. I'll build something and push it out there and then go tell me, what's wrong with this? What could go wrong with this app? And it'll review it and tell me some security vulnerabilities or some, user expectations that may not be met, and you should consider those, things like that. So it's running it again. It said classic Vercel plus Prisma issue. Well, if it's classic, why didn't you fix it the first time? Let's go back to here and see if it's showing up in my projects yet. All right, so this is the one that failed. The project is there. So now let's go back to here. So it hasn't deployed yet. Let's see, is it working? Running add environment variables. Let's see what's happening in Excel now. Oh, wrong one. I want this one. Let's see. Okay, so this is the one that's building right now. So we can click into this. Unless this be intimidating to you, I don't know what most of this stuff means either. So, don't feel like, oh, what does it mean by npm run build? Actually, I do know what that means, but there'll just be all kinds of stuff that I just, gun to my head, I would just Google it, if I really wanted to know what was happening. This is sort of typical console output that you see with, looks like it completed. So let's see, is it live yet? Voila, there it is. I will share this link in the chat. And I'll just leave this up and running so you can play around with it. But if you want to reach out to me separately, Michelle, I can, get this copy of the code over to you if you want to look at that. And, you can start playing with it. One thing I'll do is I'm going to tell it. So it didn't really ask me to do this, but normally what Claude does is it creates a file called claude.md, which is basically sort of its instructions of how to think about this code base. It may have already created one. I could go check, but let me go here. Let's see. Oh, it did already. So this is the, whenever you start a new project, oh, it looks like it's just referencing the agent's file. So that's not very usual. Yeah, this is terrible. Let's see what it comes up with. So I'm going to tell it to push. Okay, so let's see what happens when I load this. Yeah, there we go. So this is just sort of a high level overview of, what technologies are we using, important environment variables, the database, key files. So this is pretty much every Claude project will have, and all the other platforms have this too. They have their own version of this. So this is usually one of the first things it does when you're creating a project from the command line. And I don't spend any time in this, but well, I take it back. So I never go in and edit this directly, but sometimes like I'll be 3 weeks into a project and there'll be some architectural issue that has kind of changed it or has been added to it. And so I'll tell it, update claude.md to include this information, because otherwise what it's going to do is it's going to search my code base every single time. Whereas if it can just read Claude into memory when it first launches, it'll know that from the start. So that's where it happens. But again, I never write that myself. I always just tell it to write it. Okay, well, we're at 8:45 my time. So I appreciate everyone sticking it out and working their way through. Does anyone have any final questions or suggestions, or is anyone here feel confident to give it a shot? Want to try it out? Feel like, yeah, I can do this.
I definitely want to give it a try, DJ. Thank you so much for this. And will you be having sessions again next month? I think you said this is like a regular thing that you're doing.
I'll be doing these probably once a month for a while. So
Amazing.
If you're on the list, you'll receive another one, and it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
So.
I think it's just putting in the reps of like getting exposed to this and like seeing it over and over again where it doesn't look so scary. Because when it's all code, it's like, oh my God, what is happening? Yeah, and just getting used to
it first, but after
accepting Claude knows what it's doing.
Yeah. Did anyone else have a question? I thought I saw a raised hand for a second, but all right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming and sitting through this, and we'll post the video, I hope soon. It took a couple of weeks last time. I hope they'll do it sooner this time. But get to it. Just start playing. Have at it. Oh, someone has a hand raised. Is there a quick question or comment?
Nope, just saying thanks.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and happy coding. Get to it.